Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to yet another episode with Ray and I this time. How you doing, Ray? What's the week been like?
So we just hired a retention head of performance. He's
Yo,
actually
I'm
been on the
excited.
podcast before. Yeah. So Justin, he left and came back. He's now our head of performance for retention team. So we're spending the week onboarding him, helping him get up to speed with the team and the team lead duties. But I can't wait to have him come back actually on the podcast. Obviously, he was like episode 2 or 3 or 4, something like that.
OG.
And yeah, just a savage email marketer. And it'd be great to have him come back and share some of the strategies he's working on.
Yeah, for sure. I like the whether it's brands or whether it's team members, I like the leave and come backers.
Yeah.
It's very validating that the culture that we have about the culture that we have, especially when we compare the kind of exit survey or exit interview with them coming back, but then also at the same time, they seem to be different people.
I agree with that.
Grown a little bit, developed a little bit, a few more battle scars, like stuff like that. So I'm super excited as well. Today's topic is I'm very excited about what to do when your ads just aren't working or not getting new customers. Lead the way, my man.
Yeah. So the context here, why we decided to talk about this was I was on the call with a pretty big supplement brand. So they're right around that $500,000 a month in revenue. Most of their revenue was coming from deals from influencers, product seeding, collaborations. So for context, they work with 200 of those people in a month on the mix of influencers, paid collabs, as well as like content creators. So 200 a month. That's where they get a lot of their revenue and also retention. But their pain has been that they've been investing probably like 300 grand a year into paid media. And their frustration is that every time they try to scale up, they never see net new customers follow. And their big pain was that they're using Triple Whale's attribution. Triple Whale says it's costing them $500 to acquire a new customer. Meta is saying 45. So something's wrong, obviously, that they just can't figure out, and the current people that they're working with, they can't figure out, which is like a really great topic because we hear this all the time. And there's a process we have to go through to rectify that.
Yeah. I think that's something that's afforded to very well a few people, because unless you are opening yourself up on something like a mentor pass or something like that to look at people's accounts or look at their marketing, or you're a freelancer or an agency, you don't get to see it at volume all the time. Like if you're working in house, for example, you're really basically just looking at your ad account, how to improve it.
I would say that's got to be kind of scary too, because I remember when I worked in house for a massive brand. So it was a 200 million a year homeschool brand. And I remember there's so many questions like, is this normal? Is this not normal? What can I expect? Why is this happening? Like it was a very scary thing because you had to figure it out. You had to like spend days on YouTube or in threads or on Reddit trying to figure this crap out, or experimentation. It was pretty scary. Whereas we get the benefit of seeing hundreds of brands. We get to see like what is normal versus not normal pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you can kind of speed past the confusion in hours looking through YouTube and Reddit and all those different places, and just speak to someone who's going like, look here, look here, look here. It's like that story that it's like that thing that happened to me when I had my tech startup, and I was trying to fix this one line of code. Right? I was trying to fix this one line. I was trying to fix this one bug, and I could not for the life of me. I was scrolling through all the lines of code, and I could not for the life of me figure out what the hell was causing the problem. So I went to one of the senior devs at another startup. I don't like bothering people, but I'm like, hey man, I'm really stuck. It's been 4 days. I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. Is it this function here? Am I writing this wrong? Is the logic here broken? Like what's going on? Some stuff is nested. And he looks through the thing for like what felt like 10 seconds. And then he backspaced a comma and turned it into like a semicolon or something, and then hit it, and then we just ran the program and it just ran. The bug just went away.
Gosh.
And I go, dude, holy shit, you just did that in like 10 seconds. It took me 4 days. He went, no, 10 years. I'm like, Right, got it. Okay, yeah. Anyway, I bought him a nice lunch, and well, whatever lunch I could nice lunch means for startups that are broke. But
That reminds me, before the Right Hook days, I was really into trying to build niche websites. And so, long story short, I built this website, built like a PDF. I was going to use SEO to monetize it. And I was trying to figure out the placement of where I put AdSense, how to move it from one part of the page to the other. I just spent 4 days, but I'll never forget. I was so frustrated that I talked to some guy in my co-working space. He's like, dude, you're an idiot. Paying someone a couple $100 to fix it versus spending days to figure it out is just like so worth the money. Just do it. And like, I didn't end up launching the site, but I did that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much better.
yeah, would you rather 4 days or like $100, $200, $500?
Yes.
Is your 4 days really worth $500? I mean, it's something to weigh up. Back when I was running a startup, had nothing to afford, but I was very lucky to be in that room. Yeah, man. So in that case, do you have any show and tells?
Yeah. So I want to show you the ad account. I picked out two ad accounts because these are both two brands that are pre-working with us. And so we just went through the audit phase that we showed in previous episodes, the strategy planning phase we showed in previous episodes. So we could show, so you, if anyone watches, how they can spot the problem. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and we are going to not reveal what is happening yet. And I want you to see if you can walk through the thought process with me. Okay. I'm moving columns so you can't see it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's what happens. A brand, they're running ads on Meta. As they're running ads on Meta, they are just looking at the purchases, right? What are the purchases? What are my results showing Shopify? What are my returning customer sales, my new customer sales? And then if you're using attribution, like in this brand's example, why is it costing me so much to acquire a new customer based off what Triple Whale says versus what Meta says? It's very easy to fix this actually and to spot this. So anytime that happens, the first thing you should go to is actually go to the attribution tool. Now, the attribution tool, what you can do is you can see an attribution breakdown of what day window are my conversions falling. For example, Meta by default uses a 7-day click, 1-day view attribution setting, meaning someone sees an ad today and they buy within 24 hours, Meta takes credit for that. Or if someone clicks today and they buy within 7 days, Meta takes credit for that. So, for example, this brand, when you look at their attribution settings, you can see first thing right here, over half of all of the reported conversions are on a view attribution. Now, why is that a problem? That is a problem because this brand is very good at organic, is very good using influencers and collaborators. So what that is Meta using what highest volume optimization event. It is just looking for people who they think is most likely to potentially buy, and is putting it in front of those people who already saw that content from that influencer, that collaborator, and taking credit for it. And since Meta is just going after what's the highest amount of people I can put this ad in from, is essentially just optimizing for people who aren't actually taking action on an ad, which means it's not actually driving incrementality from those ads because more than likely they were going to buy anyways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes total sense.
So that's the first thing we look at when we have an example like this, because it tells us a few things. Number one, that we have to change Meta's default attribution setting to force Meta to go after what we call incrementality in the business, which means if I spend $100 on Meta, I want it to get me $100 or more of new customer revenue so that I know I'm always driving new customer revenue for my ads, because our belief is ads are supposed to drive new customers, and then loyalty programs, retention, new product launches drive returning customer sales.
Yeah. To break that thing down visually, incrementality, if we're judging it from $100 in spend, if it generates new revenue above $100, that's where the incrementality lies.
It lies in just if I spend money on ads, I want it to bring in new customers.
Right.
Because
There you go.
what Meta doesn't show you is this also includes returning customers. So, for example, what you don't know is how many of those people are actually just returning customers that Meta's putting the ad in front of. And that's the other problem as well is for this brand, because they do this quite frequently, they're very good organic. There is a strong case, which we can go into that conversation if you want, that Meta is just putting that ad in front of people who are going to come back and buy anyways because they're already a returning customer. Whereas we want our ads to fuel more new customers into the business because once we have them, we can use the other efforts to get them to buy again.
Totally.
So it's a matter of it's not efficient, right? It's not an efficient way to spend my money. And if I want to spend it the most way efficiently, I want my ads to bring more people in while the other efforts get people to come back several times.
Yes. Focusing on new customer acquisition rather than purchase acquisition.
Yeah, and that's kind of like our philosophy at Right Hook is we with how we do our media buying way and how we make decisions, how we scale, we could advertise just for purchase volume.
Yep.
However, is that the most efficient way to do it? No. Instead, what we do is we focus on new customer purchase volume because that is the lifeblood of a business. For example, there's many brands we've done this with, but as an example, we have this playbook for irresistible offers. And we like to tell this example of a brand where we focused on new customer acquisition with a really great irresistible offer, Bradley. And Bradley was on the podcast. And it drove 40,000 new customers and turned that brand into an 8-figure brand because we're focused on new customers from the ad spend and the rest of the efforts bring people back again. So
Yeah,
let me show you
totally.
another brand.
Especially if you've got, especially if you've got retention on the back end as well. I mean, retention marketing efforts, so email and SMS, to be able to bring those people back or chat as well. I mean,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
don't talk
all
about it
those
as
work.
much, but exactly.
All those work. Push notifications, having an app as well. Those are all really great retention efforts.
Yes, but making
I'd
sure that
say
each tool focuses on the right thing.
exactly. Like we do this a lot with as a function to get people to come back, returning customers, new product launches, loyalty programs. There's a lot of things you can do to get people to come back. Ultimately, having a great product is the magic bullet for getting repeat customers. Now, here's another ad account. So this ad
Totally.
account, they have quite a bit of stuff running at the moment.
You
You
probably got
can
to
see
switch
here,
the. You probably got to switch the
yeah,
tab
sorry.
though.
Yeah, my bad. So this brand, there's a lot of campaigns. They're running top of funnel, middle of funnel, post purchase. So I brought this up specifically to show this how these people they're running their account because they believe in the dogma of splitting out campaigns per funnel. So what we care about the most is spending ads to drive new customer sales, not focus on returning customer sales because there's better and frankly cheaper efforts, and that goes into our efficiency conversation. There's cheaper efforts to get customers to buy again than spending money on Meta and Google to get them to come back. So as you can see here, this brand in their what they would call their middle of funnel, what is that? Probably nearly 70% of all their sales right here are view attribution. So what that means is it's not actually driving incrementality, even targeting those people. And so if you were, for example, um, if I were to then expand on the cost per purchase, Meta would also show you how much is it really costing me to get someone to see an ad today, click an ad today, and purchase today. And often what you find is that cost is significantly greater, which typically means that this is not the most efficient way to target.
Totally. So TLDR, tip the first. Make sure your attribution windows are right.
Yes.
Especially if you're seeing stuff like $500 versus $4,500 reported CPA.
And probably for where you're at in your business cycle, when a brand, I'm gonna pick a number out here. Let's say between 30K a month and 80K a month, maybe 100K a month in that window. You can just go by the default Meta attribution, 7-day click, 1-day view, because you have a limited budget and you want to get as much data as possible inside those campaigns for Meta to be more stable. But what we find every time as a brand scales and their other efforts ramp up, people know who they are, SEO ramps up, organic ramps up, influencers ramp up. That's when you have to switch to different attribution settings. So it's more incremental because otherwise Meta's always going to go after the things that are easiest to get, whether or not they're new or returning, whether or not they're going to buy anyways.
Yeah, totally. Is there beyond looking at beyond looking at the attribution window, and what you just talked about, which is feeding it more data so that it can start to stabilize and be less volatile, and then making a discretionary call to switch over. Uh, where else should we look if the ad account isn't just humming the way that we need it to hum?
So the other way is going to be your creative.
Mm.
The theme we're talking about is my ads aren't getting more new customers or they aren't growing, which is obviously can be many reasons that happens. But so you have what's the structural inside the ad account, but then also the ad creative. So on the ad creative side, this is where positioning really comes into play. Ad positioning. This is critical. And I know, D, you're a huge proponent of this because you're really great at positioning, even internally for our own marketing at Right Hook. Like that's something you love to do. But that's where typically positioning is your problem. So, for example, that same
Yo,
brand.
wait, before you go into the example, zoom in a little bit, bro, because now we're looking at Shopify porn. Shopify, yeah, okay, there we go.
These
There
are
we
all
go.
real results, by the way, for anyone watching this that we've done. This
I
is
swear I'm a doctor. Look at my certificates. I swear I'm a doctor.
So this is a pretty infamous one too. We did over $1 million in a day. This is where we've done $4 million in a quarter. A lot of stuff. I could do this all day. We have a lot of examples. But positioning is where it really comes into play. So, for example, let's just kind of follow this trend line. Using proper positioning has many benefits. Ads are cheaper. Your ads stay on longer, which means you have to make less. Attracts net new customers, which is what we care about. And again, this is all about just positioning, which is, I'd love to get your take in a second. Reaching new audiences, you can scale better. It's just more stable cost and you don't run out of audiences, right? But the adverse side, which is a lot of brands that come to us are feeling, is they can't figure out why they can't scale, like that supplement brand I told you about. They're forced to always use discounts to survive to make their ads work, which is an immediate sign that you have a positioning problem. They plateaued in revenue for months and quarters. Costs keep going up for them, and their results are just all over the place. So if you're feeling that, I'm telling you with certainty you have a positioning problem.
Yeah, totally. And that's something that we talk about in episode 18, where we nerded out a little bit about awareness stages. This really plays into that too.
And that's exactly what I'm going to show you. Is there's more to positioning than just the awareness stages, which we should probably do a podcast on all the different levels. But this is so important to have real examples that I'm going to give you as well. So when you have the awareness levels, why this is important is if you unlock them, you reach new levels of scale. So for example, you have the most aware, which is just a discount, product aware, which is talking about the specific attributes of the product, people that are comparison shopping for the products, solution aware, talking about the solution. Then you get into the untapped markets, which is problem aware and unaware. Now, real example. This is real deal, guys, real from our internal accounts. If you remember in a previous episode, the more you go up in the awareness level, the more you have to educate, but the more scale you have, which is important for new customers. A lot of brands that come to us, they're stuck here and maybe here, which is why they can't get net new customers. So you have to push yourself to make content that is up the awareness stages, but let's put it in real examples. So this is a brand we work with.
Zoom one more in.
Oh yeah, sorry. You can even see
There
the
you
CPAs for this brand. The bottom two, we're focusing on one awareness level. Okay, one awareness level. And it was working, but you can notice just in the CPA difference how expensive it was for this brand. So we said, okay, we need to unlock a new customer market, which for us is always looking at the awareness stages. So if we can make ads that go up the awareness stages, we can unlock a new pool of new customers. So you can see even in the results, we tested new positioning of that ad, dropped the cost to acquire new customers by half, even more in that top ad.
Yeah, and I mean, even just looking at the naming convention, which gives us a sneak peek, I guess, into the contents of that ad, if you read the bottom one versus the top one for anyone that's playing along, discover the source of your beef versus has the quality of your meat just gone?
Mm.
What type of individual would resonate with discover the source of your beef? How many people care about the source of it? I don't, right?
Only
As
people who
just
are
a
maybe solution aware.
sure, sure. Or even, and that's the beautiful thing about advertising, which is such a fun Rubik's Cube for me, because not only is it a it's not as static as a person is solution aware, problem aware, etc., but also in what moment in their walking day to day, what mode are they in? As an
Mm.
example, if I was sitting in a steak restaurant, I'd probably ask, where's this beef come from? Because I'm in that mode. I'm thinking about it actively in that
Your
moment.
end market is what Luke would say.
Right, exactly, right, and very much so. I'm sitting at the table. I'm like not only in market, I'm in restaurant as well. And then we've got, if I'm just walking around at the supermarket and I'm looking at beef, I'm just going, well, does it look gray? Does it look like vibrant? Is it still nice and pink and red? So the quality of my meat is so different to the source of my beef. And I mean, look at the numbers.
Yeah,
And
and
that's just the headline alone.
just headline exactly. And obviously the creative was different, which is a big factor. But the creative was made to fit that awareness stage that we're talking about, and that's where I think sometimes there's a misconception that the people who do know about this positioning tactics, they think, oh, it's going to cost me more money to go after different awareness stages. That's not true. We don't see that. Some instances that if it's a product that takes a lot of education, that may be true, but not always. And why this works is because, like you said, it's unlocking people who weren't even in market or they didn't think they were in market by that positioning. Everyone goes to the supermarket and gets food. Everyone, if you're alive in a first world country, you go to a supermarket to get food. So the TAM is massive. And then obviously the ad does a great job of talking through it. But yeah, just a great example.
Absolutely.
So let me show you another one. Oh, this one doesn't, I don't have this, but here's an example of same thing where I'm not showing the ads, but I'm showing the power of going upstage. So why this is so important is because if you feel stuck, so the left hand side, the ads shows the power positioning on the ad level. But the power of it on the macro level is when you feel stuck, when you unlock a new awareness stage, there's a whole new pool of people you can now reach to fuel your business and fuel the funnel. And that's the power of it, is that is how we scale brands as we unlock those new awareness states, those new total addressable markets to keep a brand scaling.
Totally. What's the stuff that you had at the bottom? Oh, there. Okay, got
So
you.
it's
So
just this,
bring
yeah.
it back to
Showing the
that thing
different
again.
awareness states, yeah.
Yeah. Positioning is such a fun place to, that's why I'm so, and we talked about this before when, remember the previous podcasts, I asked you the question around what type of mind or individual would be great moving into a marketing strategist role or a media buyer centric strategist, a paid social type of strategist. And you mentioned copywriter. I
Absolutely.
think exactly for this type of reason, to use words and visuals to uh, appeal, create things that resonate with certain types of people, and to get them to the place where it's like, oh yeah, the quality of my meat, now that you bring it up, the quality of the produce in the supermarket has gone down. Click, right? And then it's, oh
Or they
yeah,
even question in their mind,
right. You're
has
planting,
it gone down? What do I not know?
right? Exactly, right. How often um, has that happened to us already?
Pretty much any article I see that's like, you may be at risk because of plastic or because of sugar, I'm freaking clicking on it because now it's unlock a problem that I'm not aware that I have subconsciously, but now I feel like I'm aware of it and I have to research myself. Great example.
Yeah. Um, the one reason why you're plateauing at the gym, Oh, bro, that's me.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
oh no, is this spinach killing your testosterone? Right. I eat spinach like 3 times a day.
Is it totally?
You know what's so funny? Do you know V Shred, the V Shred guy?
Yeah,
So, dude, he's got. I would love to look at his ad account. He must have some of the best click through rates in humankind. So, it gets me every time too. Is he has ads that run right now because they still like a testosterone booster, and the ad, the first 3 seconds, and the thumbnail is stop eating these testosterone killing foods, and in the picture is beef, chicken, eggs, rice, and broccoli with like every meathead eats. But obviously, those aren't the foods. But holy crap! Like, I bet that click through rate's amazing.
yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, I would love to. I would love to have a look at what their direct response marketing kind of accounts and stats look like. It'd be so fascinating that they go volume very, very hard.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see too because they've been spending so much money for such a long period of time. I mean, I
Totally,
love to see like they're probably running all unaware. They have to.
totally. Um, hey, so okay, let's before we move on to the next talking point, let's kind of put a pause here for a second. So, tip the first, have a look at your attribution windows. Make sure that they are right sized for what you need. Is that about right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Um, because Meta could be taking credit for, or at least the reporting could be taking credit for non new customer purchases, which then skews your entire um, data visualization, or at least the way that you're looking at your data.
That's
So that's the
correct.
first one. Second one, what are we saying exactly about positioning to go to explore going further up the awareness stages so that further away from the safe zone?
Correct. It's when you feel like you've plateaued or your ads aren't bringing in new customers, take a look at the positioning and where does it sit within just those 5 awareness stages. Because we see this with hundreds of brands we work with. You get stuck in a rut because it worked for a long period of time and you optimize just for that thing and that ad type and that messaging, but it has a diminishing return effect. So what that means is you have to try new positioning and go further up, or in some cases, it can be further down as well. But yeah,
Nice. Absolutely. And speaking of angles and creative, I got a bit of show and tell as well. So here it is. No context. I'll just show it. But I would love for us to talk about the difference so between two ads created for the same purpose
okay,
1 year apart.
interesting, interesting.
Okay. So let's get this guy going. I want to make sure I got the right one. Okay. This one is the first one. So there we go. That's the first one. This is this year's one.
Okay. Oh wait, you got to share your tab. Oh, I see it.
I'll start it again.
Okay, my bad.
Sorry, guys. I'd love to talk about it.
Let's
What?
talk about it.
Yeah. What's coming to mind between the first one and the second one, based off of the backdrop of what we were talking about just before?
That if my gut tells me again, I could be wrong, is that they launched that ad, a crap ton of people came, they realized it's freaking cold here in Tasmania. and it was unrealistic, and maybe there was misaligned expectations. And I feel like the next ad better sets expectations. That's my
Right.
feeling from it.
And it's so funny how you started laughing when you talked about the second one.
Oh, it's freaking
Even
funny, yeah.
right, like even from an awareness level standpoint, it seems like first one is if you're really into ice baths and if you're already that type of person, we're speaking to this subset.
Mhm.
Come visit Tasmania during the winter. It's cold as shit. Like it's you don't even have to get an ice bath or jump into the water. And then the next one is more, hey, you're a regular Joe that's not into ice baths and all that, but just come and feel out. These are the feelings that you might go through, but it's so entertaining.
Can I go a step further? I believe that second ad could also be interpreted as if you want to be that type of person, even though you're not, because that's important, is advertising not only
Hey,
are you this
yeah,
person,
wow.
but do you want to be this person? There's a big market of those kinds of people too. Are you not a cold punch person, but you want to? Well, then Tasmania is a great place for that. I'm not saying that's why they made it, but that's my
Sure.
interpretation.
Right. Like it kind of goes, hey, yeah, like that's kind of like me.
Yeah.
And it's also like he didn't have the big beard. He didn't look like a Zen
He
master
looked
Rick
normal. The first guy
Rubin.
looked like he does this all the time, and that's like his thing.
Right. And then the adjustment, right? The check and adjust for this year was kind of like, hey, can we appeal to like more just regular Joes who are thinking about it, but we just got to get them across that line to go, come on down and make it somewhat, there's that kind of Wes Anderson vibe. Clearly that director liked them, was a bit of Wes Anderson fan, but it fit really nicely there
What
too.
I thought was really interesting on the second one is I feel like it pinpointed so well what a normal person would be thinking or doing. Like, gets ready to take the call. It's like, heck no. And like, I'm cold. I just want a hot beverage. I think that was so spot on. Just understanding that type of person really well. And then obviously the payoff is once you jump in, you feel amazing and you feel like you're that
Right.
type of person again.
100%. And that, even though those are two ads that tend to live above the line, right? So TV advertising, out of home,
Was that a
probably,
TV ad? Is that where you saw it
yeah,
originally? Or did you saw it
yeah.
on YouTube?
So
Okay.
so YouTube pre-roll, it's running on television as well, because it's state tourism, so they need to spend that, and state tourism spends on a reach and frequency objective, not
Mhm.
a hard kind of CPA objective like us, like idiots.
What I think is funny is of all the things they could have talked about Tasmania, is that like their unique value prop? It's
So they've been
freaking
running
cold
that,
here.
yeah.
It's
So
like,
it's freaking cold has been the theme that the Tasmania tourism has been running with for like a few years now, at least to my memory. Every season, it's always come down for the cold, because it's their down. They even call it out. It's their off season.
hmm.
So come down for the cold. It's cold, right? So they're trying to find different angles and different ways.
Good
So
for
I guess the
them.
first one they intellectualized and went, well, let's target the people that love the cold anyway. But maybe that market was too small. And this one to
Yeah, I
go,
think it.
let's target the people that are wanting, to your point, are wanting to do that. So now we're reaching a broader market too, but still sells the same type of point, which is come here and feel the water. You might be a different person, whatever that looks like. And maybe part two, because typically when you hire an ad agency or a production company like that to do above the line, you typically do like 3 to 4 30-second spots.
Mm.
Sometimes they do it as a series. So after this, it might be him running to the water. We don't see the other side, but it's like he turns into a different person. Now he walks out like
Yep.
a Zen master or something,
Yeah, I was gonna
just
say
to
that I feel
follow
like
along with the humor.
if there would have been one thing I would add, it would have been the payoff of the payoff. And now it's either the bragging rights, the feeling of a master, or the look on people's face like, oh, you're that kind of guy that jumps in cold water. He's like, yeah. And I'm not saying those
Right.
exact words, but
Yeah,
the payoff of the payoff would have been really interesting to see.
for sure. Exactly. And even though these are above the line, it's still very the packaging, that type of and people that play with Midjourney do this a lot, uh, where they understand certain styles. Like if I say Tarantino, a certain style shows up in your mind. right? If I say Wes Anderson, a certain style shows up. If I say Guy Ritchie, a certain style shows up. To then Zack Schneider, a certain style shows up. But to then
Yeah.
take that, it doesn't have to be, you know, ARRI Alexa cameras or Red cameras or these really high production value, expensive endeavors. You can still use the UGC, you can still use the lower fi stuff, but still put it through this type of a narrative for any type of break. Like, really, what made the first one different to the second one was just storytelling and like graphical overlays, like supers, we call it, like superimposed text.
I have a question for you because you have a lot of background, especially like in video and video making. How important was the composition to also getting that same feeling across in the video? Because they could have gone with full color. They could have gone with not really great sounds, right? Because the sounds were very crisp, at least in my headphones they were. How important do you feel like the composition of all those little pieces played to that overall aesthetic?
It really depends on what kind of director you talk to and what type of style, what type of sensitivities they bring to the table.
What do you
Like,
sensitivities? What do you mean?
so, for example, you could have someone like let's take two drastic ones. We've got someone like a Christopher Nolan, where every time he makes a movie, he'll play with sound a lot, right? So if anyone watched Oppenheimer, when the spoiler, an atom bomb goes off,
Oh no, in the movie?
right? When the atom bomb goes off, everyone expected the atom bomb type of deafening sound, but it turned into this muted type of like, and then very protracted to keep the tension. So he has a certain style of making, telling his story. And then you got someone like Zack Schneider, 300, most recently Rebel Moon, Justice League. That's all him. Where it's not, you don't even know what sound effects are really happening. Like, it's not even part of it. They're there, but they're not calling attention to it. But for him, it's like the slow motion, right? In 300, it's like there are 300 nipples on screen right now,
and they're all jiggling.
Yeah, you want to see them go real slow. So they have different vehicles to tell whatever the story might be. So it comes down to that, really. And if you're on most advertising, like ad shoot, above the line type sets, it sometimes gets a bit tense because there's a bit of a power play going on. The client, in other words, if we were producing an ad, the client would be us, right? Representing the brand, who are the ones that have to like show up at 4:30 in the morning when the film crew is all there. That's yeah. And so you have the client village, which is a small little tent, a little monitor, sometimes a walkie, and you're just sitting there like watching over what's being filmed. And then you've got the director who's running the set, but in the back of their mind, they're like, the client is the one to approve this, so I have to go. So you always see,
please them.
Right. So you always see the film set, and then the director would be like, cut, and then they'll just disappear from the set for like a few minutes. Where they're going is to go speak.
Like commercials with brands is like, right, the director.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Wow. So like that's gotta be annoying too. Cause like for us, we don't have that high production, and that we think about speed and performance creative, but that's really interesting that they would pause, cut, and go check it out. With the
right. So and that's the power play that I'm talking about. You control the film set, but you know that there are people looking over your shoulder and also plugged in with a live feed to your camera, who might have thoughts, but they're not directors themselves. So they might want to play backseat. So there's this dance that happens all the time. Point being, I came from that world. That's why this world is so simple to me, because what I mean by simple is it washes away all that silly power play. It doesn't have to exist. It really is about speed, and everyone is very aligned on what the outcome is, and there's very clear data, right? And it's very short feedback loops. So point being, we can learn from this and experiment faster, get data faster, but then also, because we can experiment faster and cheaper, we have such a more fun sandbox to play in. To your point, several episodes ago to let your hair down. In fact, it was episode number 1 to be able to let your hair down and go, hey, can we try something like that? What is are there, inspired by this, what can we steal? Are there the 4 stages of trying our product, or the 4 stages of convincing your wife that this product's worth it? And then playing that out, and then doing the payoff for the payoff as the last bit for the really, really unaware. Like, we're tapping really unaware, right? And then bringing them into the fold, because that then might be able to broaden out the total addressable market within that ad account.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see them launch an ad for like family-friendly cold as well. Obviously, not mom and kids are going to want to go in the cold water, but it'd be cool to see in a video like the dad does that, while the kids and the mom go and do this thing to show that family-friendly.
And then, like, part 2 could be the 4 stages of your parents doing this, embarrassment, and like all these other things. Yeah, you're good, bro. Still handsome.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, man. So yeah, anyway, thanks for playing that game with me. Like, hopefully everyone who's playing along can steal from that, get some ideas. Hopefully in the next month or so, we start seeing a few ads on TikTok and on IG following that style, and I can feel a bit vindicated.
I'll have to find a way to do that relatively quickly and cheaply.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It had nothing to do with the camera. Like, if based on that ad, it could have been shot on a phone. It was all just the narrative of it, nothing else.
So that's where the talent black and white too on an iPhone. Oh, you can do that post production as well.
You can do the post anyway. Yeah. Exactly. So but what the delivery mechanism was so much about the storytelling.
Yes.
And the fact that it got me. Like, when I went there, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly me. I'd be that guy in the corner, just being like, no, man, I don't want to. All right, fine.
Well, you've done a cold plunge before.
Yes, and I was kind of like that. Those were the emotions that went through my head when I was like,
how did you feel afterwards, though?
It was I was ready to go again minutes after I came out.
No way, that's crazy.
It was super fun, and it felt. But also, like, I was in front of strangers. It felt kind of embarrassing too, because I'm as much as I'm Asian, I'm super pale. I skew on the pale side of Asian complexion. Anyway, all the blood rushes to the top of your skin, so it looks like you're just breaking out in like hives or something. So the top half of me was just pink. Yeah, but below my neck, because my head didn't go in, besides like for a few seconds, so it's just pink from here to here.
That's funny.
Yeah. But it was, I would highly recommend, even just to do it once, to feel it and to say, I can do it. Didn't die, and nothing bad happened to me. So, okay, let's round this out. If ads are not working, do you want to do a bullet point if ads aren't working, and then just talk us through what we talked about?
Yeah. So ads aren't working. First you want to do is look at your attribution settings inside Meta, view versus click attribution. Second thing is you want to look at the positioning of your products. If you do new positioning, you unlock new addressable markets and new pockets of people on Meta that it will then serve to. And on this episode, I showed 2 examples for you to mimic, thinking about conceptually how to unlock that at a new awareness level.
And my little submission in there, if the ads aren't working, look at your creative through that lens of positioning and try those things. I highly recommend, if you have a team member or you yourself feel paralyzed or stuck with moving up to different awareness stages and thinking that, hey, this thing ain't gonna work, maybe I would highly recommend going to episode 1, where we talk about Liquid Death. They're kind of doing okay kind of company, nothing to call home about. I'm really underplaying them, and have a look at the ad that Ray shared there. Very low cost, but very far reach. Mm-hmm. And I mean, look at where they are now. They're still running ads like that and content like that. Let's call it content, Sweet, man. This was fun. What I can't wait to do is go deeper into this and start talking about and sharing with the world the way that we think, our media buying philosophy, not
Mm,
necessarily all the tactical things, but the philosophy that underpins our media buying way, the areas that we start to play around with in terms of constantly testing out that philosophy to see whether it's still robust and what we do if a test proves to show otherwise. Would love to get some of the team on here to be able to do that.
yeah, because we recently had a debate internally about that topic.
Yeah,
Got
totally.
heated for a moment.
Yeah, for sure. And that was amazing to be part of. And I'd love for you guys to be able to see it. We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, let's wrap it up here. Dude, as always, this is super fun.
Sounds good. CD.
See you guys next time.